Welcome everyone, Questine here to talk about some of the greatest legendary lords in Total War Warhammer 3 that have pretty bad start positions that in one way or another do ruin their campaigns. But what do I mean by a video like this? I'm talking about legendary lords that are genuinely strong, genuinely good, well designed, but have such a bad starting situation that it is going to limit their campaign potential. And at number 5, we of course have Throt the Unclean. Now, Throt is a powerful legendary lord with a fairly unique playstyle for Skaven. I think Creative Assembly put a lot of effort with the DLC legendary lords for the Skaven, be it the weapon teams for Ikit Claw, the assassins for Clan Eshin, and with Throt, the focus on monstrous units and in general melee units. And it does work quite well. He has a lot of power on the campaign map because of the mutations. He's got a lot of individual unit customization, so a lot of things to really like about Throt. And he also starts with Help It, which is a great settlement for Skaven. The problem is that you are in Kislev, and Kislev sucks. As a campaign area is horrible for everyone. There is no legendary lord in the game that's looking at Kislev as an appealing area to conquer in any way, ever, in any circumstance. Kislev is not worth a damn, and even if you conquer it, you're probably better off selling it to someone else. Even as Kislev, you may want to sell all of Kislev, all the Oblasts, like the Western Oblast, Troll Country, Eastern Oblast, Southern Oblast, to other factions. Like, for instance, if I'm playing a campaign as Boris Ursus, let's say I take Confederate Catherine, I get the Southern Oblast. You know what I'm going to do with the Southern Oblast? I'm not going to bloody keep it. I'm going to sell it to Ungrim, then sell Troll Country to Ungrim, so that he can hold the entirety of Norsca at bay, while I go off actually winning the campaign by conquering a vast array of territory to fuel my armies, and then go deal with the Archeon and all the other issues. The problem for Skaven, though, is that Skaven do need provincial capitals, and they need provinces with free settlements, ideally, in order to generate a lot of money. Basically, the way the Skaven economy works, it's based on a bunch of smaller structures that all generate some income, and then building an arcane generator into Warpstone Reactor in order to vastly increase the income. That's how you can make a lot of money, but usually this is through getting a lot of buildings. Now, some settlements are like Help It or Skaven Blight, and of course you can generate a lot of money through that, but Kislev is not. These are provinces with two, like the Western Oblast and Troll Country in particular, are provinces with 2 settlements each, but even the Eastern Oblast and Southern Oblast, though they have free regions, you can't get the proper provincial capital, which means the potential of these provinces is going to be very limited in your campaign. As a result of that, if you're playing Throt, you're going to have a rough start, because Kislev is going to come for you. But what you want to do is take the Giant Home Mountains and then go over here to take the Gormandi Mountains and then move into Darklands. That might be your best campaign decision, and not having to deal with Kislev. Of course, ignoring Kislev is ignoring your short campaign victory condition, so it isn't a great situation to have to deal with at all. Not being able to secure a good amount of territory that's actually useful to you in your campaign does limit Throt's campaign and makes his early game fairly weak. And number 4, we have Ikit Claw of the Skaven. Now, usually with videos like these, I try and follow the rule of 1 legendary lord per race, but Ikit Claw's situation is worth mentioning. So it's Throt's situation worth mentioning, because both of them have the same problem. Let's go over Ikit Claw's situation. He is a very powerful legendary lord. He could very well be the strongest Skaven legendary lord, but in practice, he is not. There's quite a few others that are just better than him purely because of his start position. See, he starts with Skaven Blood. That's all well and good. He starts with a landmark that allows him to recruit clan rats. Again, great. The problem is this. Every other province next to you is awful to deal with. It's not a climate issue, it's an issue of just how these provinces are. So you have Estalia, you might think, oh, I can just take Estalia. The problem is, Mogr is going to take this element, put a Hearthstone, and then he might do a ritual very quickly, and then burn some of these elements to the ground. Now, you can destroy Mogr, but you're going to be dealing with a lot of chaos corruption early on, which is obviously going to cause rebellions. And for Skaven, rebellions are almost certain when they take over a province, because they do impact public order control by a significant amount. So taking Astalia is pretty worthless as Ikit Claw. You could do it, but you're going to spend a lot of resources rebuilding it, and you do have to defeat Mogr. It's not worth it. It's a stupid decision in point of fact, because the northern part of Astalia is actually not at all worth it from a Skaven perspective. Yes, there is some wine resources, sure, that could be worth it. But if you take Astalia and eliminate Mogr, you've just made yourself vulnerable to the Fey Enchantress. Now, she has to deal with Grom, but she might just declare war on you instead of declaring war on Grom. So that's one of the problems in this particular campaign. Then to the east, you have Belegar, you have the entirety of Athaloran, and then you have Balthazar Gelt, and also Scrag. And all of these factions, to a degree or another, do dislike you. So don't be surprised if all of them start marching against you. So Skaven Blight is sandwiched between two big problems to the west and a major problem, a far bigger problem to the east. Belegar is not an easy legendary lord to defeat, because between his heroes, his own combat ability in battle, his army, he's actually quite powerful. Like, his campaign isn't great to deal with, but his army is, him controlled by the AI, it's pretty difficult. Then you have the issue with Aranessa, who, again, doesn't like you, like many other legendary lords around you. Everyone dislikes the Skaven. If you're playing a Skaven campaign, you can pretty much expect all of your neighbors to potentially declare war on you at one point or another. Now, the issue with the thing about Aranessa, you kind of want her territory. You could have a military alliance with Aranessa, but you want to take Tylea and you want to take Sartosa. You probably won't hold Tylea because of Belegar, but you actually want to take Sartosa and then move south. But it is a rough start, because you're not dealing with Belegar, and actually dealing with Belegar just exposes you to Orion, Durfu, and that isn't a pleasant experience to deal with. And again, all of this slows you down and limits your potential in the campaign. Your best campaign plan is basically to take over Arkan, the Black starting position, and make it more or less your own. You're not abandoning Skaven Blight, but you're not really investing in any territory here. What you do is you spend a couple of turns sacking Tabaro and just recruiting clan rats. When Aranessa shows up at the Tylean capital, she'll start laying siege to it. Most of the time, she won't take it the same turn on any difficulty, but she'll start laying siege to it. And what you can do then is move with Ikit Claw, maybe recruit the second lord just to act as a scout, move with Ikit Claw, and basically help Tylea. Like, go to Tylea, ask them to pay you to declare war on Aranessa. They'll be in a pretty desperate situation, and then you fight the battle with her army over here, and you let the entire Tylean garrison and army in the settlement to more or less be wiped out. Then you take over the settlement, you wipe out Aranessa, you then cross the sea, you deal with Pawns, you deal with Arkan, and you take all of this territory. But it is it's not a great campaign start. I wouldn't say it's particularly difficult. It's just really frustrating to have to deal with, because you're crossing so much territory to just really start your campaign. You're wasting so many turns, and wasting turns is not a great thing to deal with. Have Grom the Paunch of the Greenskins. Grom is an incredibly strong legendary lord, one of the strongest in the game, to be quite honest. I would dare say he's even better than Grimgor. The thing that really neuters him in a lot of ways is his starting position, and it's in more ways than one. See, Grom has so much power in his campaign that you might not realize this problem at first, but you will realize it if you've played long campaigns with him, which I have. So here's the issue. You start with the massive Orkol over here. Okay, this is suitable climate, but then you have all of Bretonnia and Athaloran, etc. that is unsuitable climate, or uninhabitable even when we're talking about Athaloran. And so the problem is, all of the territory around you, with the exception of the mountains, is unsuitable for you, which does limit a lot of your campaign potential. Again, you won't realize it early on, but you certainly will realize it later on, because it means that taking a lot of this territory is kind of meaningless in your campaign. Sure, you do want to, and you can make it work, and you can earn an economy. Grom has such significant bonuses that he can play an entire campaign in unsuitable territory, and you can still prevail, but you start realizing the limitations, especially at higher tiers. So once you get to past tier 3, once you get tier 4, tier 5, that's when the problems start kicking in, because that construction cost is really going to start hurting you for buildings, and the lack of income is also going to hurt you. Now, Grom has a major benefit in his campaign, the ability to take over all of Wolf 1 as suitable climate. But here's the real kicker in his campaign. Okay, let's say you take over all of Wolf 1. I've done it. It's a great experience. Like, don't get me wrong. His starting situation or the things he has to deal with in the early game, it's an amazing challenge and it can feel very fulfilling to win it. But then what? There's the kicker. There's the big issue. You take Ulf 1 and a lot of the climate that's near you is uninhabitable, because the climate that is good for you is mountainous terrain and wasteland if we look at the suitable climate in his campaign. So he has savanna, he has mountain, he has wasteland. Because of that, and the fact that the nearby wasteland is pretty far away, and you have to go into into the Badlands and take it over, then that will limit your campaign. And it comes to such a point where Grom's benefits through the cauldron just can't keep up after a certain point in the campaign. So it's more of a long-term problem than a short-term problem. In the short term, you can have an amazing campaign as Grom, but long-term, in terms of empire building, that is, of course, going to be a limited campaign. And on top of that, he's the only greenskin legendary lord which has an issue in confederating all of the others. So those are the problems in Grom's campaign. Major issues. Again, it's a great campaign in the short term, not so great long term. And finally, at number 1, we have Settra the Imperishable of the Tomb Kings. By far and away. If Manfred has issues because he's in the Thunderdome 2.0, then Settra obviously has even bigger issues. Because while Manfred can recruit a lot of armies, Settra cannot. And the limitation on army recruitment really hurts Settra the most, I would say, in any Tomb King campaign. Because he starts in the middle of Khemri. Yes, Khemri has a substantial garrison, but the Lands of the Dead settlements in Numas, Qatar, Springs of Eternal Life, they don't have substantial garrisons. And let's look at the situation. So Settra has growth and construction time benefits, both of which are really good benefits for a Tomb King campaign. Then he has a bunch of benefits for Tomb Guards, for Tomb Princes, control, you name it. So he really is the empire builder of the Tomb Kings. Arkhan is much better early game, but Settra will build a vast empire better than Arkhan. It's pretty suitable. The problem is you only have one army for roughly 14 turns of your campaign. And the smart thing to do in a Tomb King campaign would actually be to do this for like 13 turns and research another one, because you're going to research things slower if you wait. So there's the issue with that. So you're playing an entire campaign across a vast territory. It's not like these settlements are so close together that they're easy to defend. And you're not just going to end things with just taking over this province. No, you're going to want to expand further. So the research limitation really hurts your campaign. I would like for research for at least the first dynasty to be completed much faster. Like, I know, 6 turns, that would be fine. But no, we have to wait 14 turns. This is one of the things I would change about the Tomb Kings. I would not necessarily give all the other legendary lords of the Tomb Kings an extra army, though I honestly don't see why Arkhan needs it and Settra does not. I would dare say that Settra should have it far more than Arkhan, because Arkhan absolutely can smash everyone in his path in his initial position with just one army. But I would say beyond that kind of change between Settra and Arkhan, I would also argue that in general it would be a much better quality of life improvement for a Tomb King campaign if you aren't wasting 14 turns. Because 14 turns is a lot. The most crucial aspect of any campaign is like the first 30, 40 turns. After that, it's less relevant. So because you're wasting so many turns to just get anything done, you're going to have a campaign that is going to be a lot slower simply as a result of that, which isn't a great experience to deal with. So, and you combine that with the fact that you're in a star position where you have Manfred to the south, Skarbrand to the north, and Numas in particular is like Skarbrand's target. He's going to look at Numas as a juicy prize for him to annihilate. Yes, you can defeat Skarbrand. You now have the ability of getting a Casket of Souls very quickly, absolutely. But it is still annoying to have to deal with that situation. And then other factions as well. Thankfully, you don't have to deal with Vorik, though I would say dealing with Skarbrand, it's certainly its own complication, because wiping out Skarbrand is a bit more difficult than wiping out Vorik, just because of the great distance between Skarbrand settlements over here in the Barrier Isles. And keep in mind, Arkhan is coming for you as well. And Volkmar might be coming for you. Manfred might be coming for you. Tic-Tac-Toe might be coming for you. It's not like you're just dealing with a couple of foes. You know, you're dealing with a lot of foes in this campaign, and it just leads to a journey of pain and suffering. If you overcome that, the rest of the campaign is a cakewalk in comparison, but it's just that early game situation that you have to tackle. My advice in this respect would be to start the campaign over and over and over again until you can get the 5th book at Nagash here in Lamia, so you can get that second army much quicker. But even then you're still going to have quite a few issues to tackle. And so that would be it. That's all I had to say on the subject. If any of you have any ideas for what I could cover in a future video, if there's anything you guys would like me to cover when it comes to Total War campaigns, please let me know in the comment section. I am always eager to hear people's feedbacks. In fact, quite a few videos that I've done lately have been based on feedback that people have given me. I also want to thank everyone that's been watching this channel for years, or even for the last couple of days, weeks, months. I do greatly appreciate it. I wouldn't have imagined like a year ago even, or half a year ago, that I would be covering Total War almost exclusively on the channel. I covered World of Warcraft, I covered other games. I would like to actually cover other games like Jedi Survivor and some other titles, but yeah, certainly right now I am very focused on covering Total War and just making these kind of discussion videos. My initial desire to do so, like what prompted me to do so, was just looking at the recommended campaign list and just laughing at the notion that Grand Cafe or the Empire would be good first campaigns for anyone that's just picking up Total War, and I just made a video on that. Really, it was kind of spur of the moment because I thought it was quite ridiculous. Don't get me wrong, I love the Empire and the lore. I think Grand Cafe is certainly a much better race than some people might believe. But there's obviously quite a few issues, especially if you're just starting out as a completely new player in Total War. Some people will manage it, but there's a lot of things that you will need to learn and a lot of things that you'll need to figure out. But yeah, I am quite grateful for to all of you, and I do want to thank the people who have been sending messages of support over the last couple of days. It has been a rough period for me, especially over the last week in particular. Personal drama, health issues, nothing too serious, but, you know, costly. And all of us, to a degree or another, are struggling one way or another because of inflation, all the economic issues that have been happening over the last couple of years. But I'm grateful for the donations. I'm grateful especially for the messages that I get as well. Because, you know, just getting a positive message once a day can really change that day for you. So I certainly feel better today than I did yesterday, as an example. If anyone wants to donate, consider doing so via PayPal or Patreon until tomorrow. Like, basically, I'm in a situation where there's a lot of things that I need to resolve right now. It's not like a long-term problem. Long-term, I'm in a pretty solid situation, but it's just like short-term issues, health issues, expenses that came up that I just need some help with. Costin signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications. And hey, there's a PayPal link as well for those that want to use it. Stay tuned for more.